Hey everyone, welcome to the B-Side Breakdown. My name is Brett Johnson and I'm your host. This is episode 39 of a podcast where I talk with other artists, musicians, and songwriters about a song they've written that is meaningful to them, that they want to have me play in its entirety on this episode so we can chat about it and get deep into the why behind it. Today I'm going to be talking to Zac Boyd from the band Johnny Rook about their song Missing You for Days. So let's get into it. Here is Missing You for Days by Johnny Rook.
Spread your wings, whether there's something else. Despite these legs, you're on your back. I'm wondering if you could get to heaven now. So emotional, sailing all these seas. But honestly, together we could be something that blows the minds. Who knows where
All right, and that was Missing You for Days by Johnny Rook. We're going to take a quick break and come back and talk with Zac Boyd about the band, the song, and everything else they're working on, so stay with us. Hey again, it's Brett from the B-Side Breakdown. Real quick, if you're digging this podcast and want to hear episodes without the ads, you can join our supporters tier called Down for the Cause over on Patreon. It's $5 a month. You get all of the episodes ad-free. You get them in advance before they're published, and you help keep this whole labor of love alive. That's at patreon.com/B-Side Breakdown. All right, we'll be back in just a minute. All right, and we are back. Let's bring in Zac Boyd from Johnny Rook to talk about the song. Zac, thank you so much for taking some time tonight to talk with me about the song.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. I know I've known about your band for a long time, and from back when I lived in Minneapolis, and just the various kind of shows and scenes, and through Brad and his different ventures that he's been working on. So it's super fun to finally get you here and to talk about this song "Missing You for Days." I mean, it's I really love the song, and I love the vibe. I love the feel. The sound is great. The songwriting is great. I just would love to hear all about why you wanted to talk about this song today.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate the kind words, sincerely. Yeah, I think I moved into the Minneapolis scene at the ripe age of 19, and I think our paths probably were close to crossing, but didn't quite get there in the amount of time that I've spent in the Minneapolis music scene. But obviously, known about the things that you've done and the music that you've transgressed. So I appreciate being here. But yeah, I guess to get started, we just released the album on the 18th, and "Missing You for Days" was the second rollout single that we released off of the record. And it's funny. This song, when I predominantly write the music before presenting it to the band, and there's a lot of I try to write all of the guitar parts with James, the vocalist, with his stylings in mind, and what would really speak to him. And this song um, was really funny because I really didn't think that he was going to gravitate towards this song at all. And when we took a 10-year hiatus, and we were kind of bouncing around, doing other projects, and just dipping our toes in other things, and just taking a break from all things Johnny Rook. And when we got back together, um, we were at a practice space, and I just started playing the song. And we were just kind of in the middle of taking a break in between playing other songs, and all of a sudden, James just started belting out the chorus to the song. And I kind of looked at him funny, and I said, "Do you actually like this one? Do you like this riff?" And he's like, I mean, I've got a chorus to it right away, man. Let's start working on it." And it ended up becoming one of my favorite songs off of the record, just because of it's got the vibe that we've always kind of gone for, which is we're essentially a pop alternative rock band, but we've got so many different roots in hardcore and post-hardcore music. And a lot of those parts kind of shine through on this song. And
Yeah,
so it was kind of the way that there's a lot of those other songs off of this record too, don't get me wrong, but this one
sure.
was always just one of those songs that was one of my more favorites. And when we were picking which one we wanted for the second single, and everybody kind of gravitated towards this one, it was kind of a pleasant surprise on my end, because it was a song I never thought was going to live as a Johnny Rook song, and here we
Yeah.
are.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And thanks for the added context that you took a break. Like we all move around and we all do a bunch of different things, and it's easy if you're not keeping up with everybody on socials and things, kind of what's going on. So when I remember, like, if we can go back a minute, one of the last things I remember hearing from you guys for forever was there was a Soundgarden tribute, fell on Black Days, I think it was, or something like that, that Brad, I thought, put out, and you guys did Blow Up the Outside World, which I thought was awesome. And I was wondering, it was kind of after that I sort of seemed to lost track of you. Were you guys around for a while after that, or kind of what happened there?
Yeah, well, it's funny because we're one of those bands that there's been a couple of, hey, this is our last show, and we've called it quits. But
Sure.
it was never out of all of the times that we decided that we didn't want to do it anymore, there was never a point where there was bad blood between any of the members of the band. And
Awesome.
I can honestly say, over the course of the last 20 years, every member of the band has remained one of my closest friends, absolute best friends in the world. So it's we after we released a record in 2011,
Okay.
and I remember we were practicing in the basement of my house in Columbia Heights, Minnesota, and
Sure.
we all went out to go smoke some cigarettes and have some beers on my deck. And everybody just kind of said, what are we doing? It just got to a point where it felt like we were going through the motions and just playing shows to play shows, and there wasn't really any kind of a fervor or a drive or a passion there anymore to
Yeah.
do the things that because we were we were. I don't want to say younger because I still feel like I'm 20 some odd years old,
I get it.
as a younger man, or a younger band, we had all of these ambitions, and just like any band that starts off, that we wanted to get signed, and we thought that was the end all be all.
Sure.
And we put our nose to the grindstone. We worked with producers outside of the Minnesota area. We did everything that we thought we were doing, we were supposed to do right. And everybody always says, "Oh, have something different and be unique, and you're going to get noticed." And we really thought that we had something special and unique, and it just kind of felt like it was falling on deaf ears. And so we sat out on my deck, and it was like, what are we doing? Do you guys even want to do this anymore? And it was like, let's just take a break, or let's just not do it. And it was something that I didn't anticipate being 10 years by any stretch of the imagination. But we all got busy. I started a family, and we all started doing other bands that kind of ate up the time. And after the last band I played in, I wrote a couple of songs, and I was going to start a new project that I just kind of handed off some songs to a bunch of vocalists that I really admired, and wanted to start something where it was just kind of having guest vocalists come in. And James and I did a couple of songs, and people kind of reached out and were like, those sound like Johnny Rook songs. And it was like, well, and I've written all of the music for Johnny Rook, and James has obviously written all of the vocals. It's probably inevitable that it's going to sound a little bit like Johnny Rook. And we got together at another barbecue, and we were like, what the hell are we doing? None of us were playing really in the same bands anymore. And it was just like, you're all my best friends, and I just want to kick it and, writing good tunes. And if it goes anywhere, cool. If not, at least we're getting together, and, we get to hang out as best friends, and commiserate over the things we appreciate about the music industry and the things that drive us nuts, and share some beers, and we
Sure.
just get to hang out. So that's kind of how it all came back to be again.
Got it. And so then when was that? Like when did this pick back up?
Okay, so that's the messed up part, is that this all came back together in about the end of 2019.
Of course.
And subsequently, when everything COVID started to hit, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden we just start getting our wheels back underneath us, and start getting some ambition, and we wanted the talk of writing a new record kind of came about. And then all of a sudden, shit hit the fan, and it was everything was closed down. We couldn't even get together to practice.
Right.
I'm writing stuff in my studio in my house, and I'm trying to send it over the wire. But any musician knows, when you're not in a room full of collective mindset of other guys, the energy and the feel of those songs just doesn't turn out the same way, because you're not feeding off of each other. So
Yep.
we went through the entirety of the COVID fiasco, really trying to stay positive and on top of things and moving forward. And I think we did a good job at it, but it was just by the end of all of that, I think that was the true test of, is this revival going to actually happen, or was this just kind of a fleeting, yay, let's do this and high five, and the thought dwindles, and then everything is kind of set to the roadside. But it stuck, and here we are. And I think this is the most fun we've been having, and personally, I feel like the best songs that we've ever written. And it's been a good time, man. And I have zero complaints of the hiatus that we took. I think it did nothing but strengthen our resolve.
No, that's awesome. That's wonderful. And thanks for sharing all that. It's really good to connect the dots on so many of those things. So then the song "Missing You for Days." So after you kind of spun back up back in 2019, when was it you were in the practice space and that event happened that you were talking about earlier?
That song was, specifically started, right right in the 2020 aspect of when,
Okay.
everybody kinda started getting that fear of the COVID and things right before things got shut down.
Yep.
We ran through a verse and a chorus and stuff like that, and, I hadn't even completed the song yet before, we had started tooling around with it, and then, once everything shut down and we were no longer in Minnesota, if you remember correctly, they had the National Guard trolling the streets and demanding everybody get back inside their house. I mean,
Right.
it got to a point here in Minnesota where it was like the fear was palpable, and and I get it. It was a complete unknown, but it was just like. Um, when we finally got back into our practice space in the studio area, we were all, we were the practice space. We were instructed we still had to wear masks, even though we're in a 10 by 20 practice space. We're all in close vicinity of each other, so
Sure.
it was like there were still a lot of unknowns and things that were going on, and so that song was kind of we kind of finished that song, and if you listen, and I'll just kind of throw this in there too, but
Yeah.
when you listen to The More Things Change, there's a song called Set It Up, and that song Set It Up on the record is actually talking about that time frame of when we started working on all of these songs, and we had written that song Set It Up before all of it fell apart, and it was a weird time, man, and it's weird to look back on these songs and kind of reflect on them, and really see the things that like specifically Missing You for Days and stuff. It's to me personally, I won't speak to exactly what James was talking about when it came to the lyrical content of that, but it was
Sure.
like, there's so many lyrics on the record that it speaks to a lot of that loneliness and that feeling that I think everybody shared throughout that time frame, not being able to see loved ones, and members of the band having people that were in the hospital that we couldn't even go see, and so the Missing You for Days is like when you think about it in context of the time frame of when the song was written, for me personally, it makes me reflect back on that time, and missing those interactions and the friendships and the family in get-togethers and stuff like that. But also, I think James was probably talking a little bit more of fleeting relationships and stuff like that. But yeah,
Sure.
it was about that time frame that that song started to get finished up, was when everybody kind of came out of those lockdowns and were actually able to converse again.
Got it. Yeah. And that's a really, really healthy reminder of that because I'll just say transparently for me, it's like some of those things that you were just talking about. I'm like, oh, that's right. Like, I mean, for me, it's been so long now almost since some of those things have happened that I'm like, I haven't stopped to go back and really think about, yeah, what was that experience like? I mean, I remember, I mean, exactly some of the things you're talking about. For me as a cancer survivor, it was really scary being in a practice space when we didn't know anything about what COVID was or what it could do. And
Yep.
and one of the things they say is the worst is singing because it's just the way to transmit it so quickly. And I'm like, okay, so are we doing this? And I got bandmates who have aging, like 85-year-old grandparents that live with them. It's like they
Yep.
can't get sick. And I'm like, wow, man, like this is a whole different world. And that for me was kind of the last time. I mean, for me, that was the last time I've been in a practice space with people um, for years until, I mean, I was getting out of Minneapolis and moved to South Carolina and was playing in a band in North Carolina for a while. But it took a long time for me to kind of get back to that. But then, right, I'm thinking about old band members and other bands I'm with, right? Like both their parents died, like right
Mhm.
within days of each other because of it. I'm just like, man, so
Yeah,
it's
it was a scary time. The
sure
thing
was.
is that everybody kind of had a different take on what was going on, and we
Sure.
had members in the band who they had loved ones with respiratory problems, and
Right.
At the time, my father-in-law was diagnosed with two different kind of lung cancer,
Ugh.
and he got a cough, and they put him in the COVID wing of the hospital, and in complete seclusion. And it was like it was a time frame where it's like you said, you look back on it now, and it kind of all feels like a dream,
Right.
um, really, really obscure dream, Inception type shit, but it was like
Exactly.
but it's crazy because everybody had a different outlook on it, but collectively as a
Sure.
band, it was like, we were trying to do what was best for, like nobody cared what the other person, believed or felt, if that makes sense. We all just respected the way that the way that current society was, and the idea was like, let's just try to keep an open mind, keep everything safe, because whether or not anybody, everybody claimed they were an expert. Social media was the worst aspect of that entire time. And it was like, whether or not however anybody feels about this, we're all going to agree that we're going to look at this from the lens of we don't know, and we're just going to respect where it's at in the moment. And we really did, and we looked out for each other. We looked out for each other's family, and respected where everything was in the moment. And by the time that it was all said and done, it was like it's weird how fast the years passed, and now I look back on it and I'm like, it's a blur, and how
Yep.
crazy everything was. It's just an absolute blur.
Yep. No, it sure is. And also thanks for the mention of the song "Set It Up" because that's good to hear that that's also kind of reflective of this time as well. So I'll be sure to go back and check that out. And for all of you listening, if y'all want to hear the song "Set It Up" as well, be sure to go to johnnyrook.bandcamp.com and buy the record "The More Things Change" that just came out on July 18th, 2025. So find the Bandcamp Friday of when that's available, buy it so they get all the money.
Well,
All right.
can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, there's if you want the physical distribution of that too, there's this rad new company out of the UK, and I'm not being paid to promote this, I swear to God. But they have found a sweet new way of being able to press one-off vinyls. And we have a store where you can buy. They will one-off press either a CD or a vinyl for you, and it's elasticstage.com / Johnny Rook, and you can order vinyl, and I can, with 100% honesty, say I bought a test press of The More Things Change in one of our last records, and I was blown away at the quality. So if you
That's
are
awesome.
yeah, so if you're a fan of that physical media, you can go on there, and within 2 weeks of ordering the record or the CD, they drop ship it to you to your door, and you will have a sweet Johnny Rook vinyl or CD on your hands.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I didn't know that it
Absolutely.
was out there too. So that's awesome, and I'm totally gonna look into that. No, that's cool, man. So the record's out. Band's back with a vengeance, and what? So what are y'all doing? What's going on? Like, are you doing shows locally? Has there been a formal record release show? Are you doing something specific or special to celebrate this?
So what we ended up doing was that we had all the session files, and we teamed up with another super good friend of the band, and longtime band Minneapolis musician from an old band called -3. I think you might remember those
I
guys
sure
too.
do.
Yep, the lead singer of that band and I, we had another band that we played in after one of the hiatuses of Johnny Rook, and so we called him up, and he joined the band, and we re-recorded all of we put his parts and his backing vocals on it, and he actually mixed and mastered the entire re-release of this record. So we've been trying to play shows that make sense, and that may sound cynical of me, but like the music scene has changed, I guess, is the best way that I can put it, since we were young men. And I remember the days of making up flyers for shows, and going and standing outside of any venue that was playing local music or even a national show, and handing out flyers to our shows and trying to get people in the door. And today's a digital age, and everybody relies, even promoters, sadly enough, rely on the aspect of well, we created an event on Facebook, and that's pretty much the only promotion that you get on it.
Right.
So, so the tough part is now is that getting back together as a band, we wanted everything that we do moving forward to be calculated and precise. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we we pick up shows here and there. We played Kansas City, went back to Iowa, where we've always been welcomed, and we played a few hometown shows, but we haven't celebrated the re-release of this record quite yet. But we're working with our A&R. We're looking into festival ideas. We're trying to get out of town as much as possible because it's tough. After the whole COVID thing, it was like there were so many music venues in Minneapolis that closed down,
Right.
and now the problem is every music venue that is around either wants you to rent the room for an ungodly amount of money, or they are only booking cover bands to try to make some money back from what they lost, and they realize that that's kind of the mo that is going to make their club money. So the local scene is kind of few and far between, and you're pretty lucky to land a show that is going to make sense or have somebody that's actually worth their weight in or worth their salt and promotion and stuff. So
Got it.
right now we're working on some publishing aspects. We're really just trying to focus on trying movies, TV shows, video game aspects, and right now we're looking to write the best songs that we can, enjoy what we're doing, and not really flood the momentum with doing a lot of things that are just there or do it to do it, so to speak. So yeah, we're willing to play shows. It's just kind of one of those things with everybody's got a mortgage. I've got 4 kids, and it's just kind of got to make sense on the back burner.
No, it definitely does. And I totally get all of that. No, that's cool. And I'm glad that you're all approaching it in a way that feels good and feels meaningful to you, that's getting you in the direction you want to go. How far out of Minnesota are you looking to go? Like, are you trying to do, I mean, you mentioned festival stuff, but are you also just doing like potentially club tours in any particular direction? I just remember back in the day of, cool, let's drive, maximum of 16 hours that direction and play as many shows as we can over the next week. But I don't
Yeah,
know if that's still like on your radar or not,
I,
getting kids and mortgages and all that.
well, it's funny because I'm the only one in the band that's got kids, and subsequently, I'm the only one in the band that's got a job that I can pack up my laptop and do it from the road too.
Sure.
So I am, dude. I'm wired so stupid. It's ridiculous. I'm so willing to get in a van and just go
Yeah.
and drive around the countryside, and whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months, like I'm all about it. If it's something that like uh, back in the day, it would have been like whatever, give us gas money and get us to where we're going. Now it would be like it'd be easy for me to continue to be in a van and do my day job, and then live the rock star life at night. But the hard part is that the rest of the guys only have so much PTO that they're able to spend throughout a given a fiscal year. But if it made sense, I honestly, I don't think that it would be something that there's a single member in the band that would say that they would completely reject it. I think if an opportunity presented itself, we would definitely weigh out the pros and cons of it and say, yeah, let's do it. I mean, right now we're trying to get a show down to Denton, Texas, because we have never met our A&R representative face to face. And so, we thought it would be, she lives in Denton, and we thought it would be a really cool idea to spend the time and drive down there, meet her face to face, personally thank her for all the work that she's been doing, have a weekend of, party lifestyle, and then make the long drive home. But we're not opposed to it. I mean, entered into the Ernie Ball Battle of the Bands for the Warp Tour down in Florida. So
Okay.
we were willing to do that, and just because it was like, man, it'd be awesome to be on a big stage again, and get that feeling of just that rush of playing in front of a ton of people again. And so if the opportunity made sense and we got to go do the things, I think everybody's gotten a resurgence of how much fun playing a show can be, when the show isn't just playing a show to play a show. It's like, hey, we're actually making this an event, and this is something that, we're going out and we're putting everything into it, and we're gonna leave everything on the stage and walk away from it and feel really confident about what we just did, rather than showing up and, hey, we're 15 hours away from home and there's five people here and the promoter's pissed off at us because we didn't bring a bunch of people in.
Right. No, I hear you. No, that's cool. I hope you get to do that. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back and find out what else you got going on and what's up next for Johnny Rook and yourself. Is that cool?
Sounds good, man.
Awesome. All right, everybody hang tight. All right, and we are back with Zac Boyd from the band Johnny Rook talking about the song Missing You for Days. Zac, thanks again for coming on and hanging out with me this evening and talking about the record. I'd love to hear more about the record overall. I know you've briefly touched on Set It Up and Missing You for Days we've talked in depth about, but is there anything more specifically about the record you want to kind of get into?
Yeah, I guess, the way it came about, we kind of touched base a little bit on it, coming back from that hiatus
Yep.
of, I guess the way that this record came about, I go back and I listen to it now, especially after the magic that Mitch put to this record, and I can honestly say there has never been another collective of songs that personally have been more proud of. And the thing is like, I played in a band right before Johnny Rook, and like I had a blast playing with the band, and we went on a pretty sweet national tour that I was really proud of. But the thing about it was that it was a completely different genre of music, in terms of songwriting, and I was kind of the backup, and I was playing in the band as the main guitarist of that band was the songwriter, so I was kind of backing up everything that he was doing. And
Sure.
with Johnny Rook, it's just it's always been a strange style. I play with multiple capos. It's kind of something that I get teased for quite a lot, just because I have a capo and then what's called a spider capo, and it's just it allows me to play really weird tunings, and I just get to explore the guitar in a different light.
Fun.
Um, yeah, but it's the thing is that that's really only been something that has been able to translate to a band like Johnny Rook, because since James and I started writing songs together, it was just something that he kind of gave me a lot of open freedoms. And so when I was playing with this other band, I tried to write songs, but they didn't translate to something that was more of an active radio rock type band. So it was crazy when I wrote the two songs and had James sing on those two songs, which eventually we turned into Johnny Rook songs. But when everybody was like, well, why are we not doing Johnny Rook? Let's just get back together and start doing Johnny Rook. And all of a sudden it was just like I sat in my studio, and it was like songs just kind of started pouring
Awesome.
out. And I know that sounds really cliche, and you hear a lot of bands that are just like, oh man, it was just like the songs wrote themselves. But honestly, it was just I had spent 5-6 years playing in that band, of
Yeah.
not being able to really express myself creatively, that all of a sudden it was just like all of this bottled up and pent up music that I hadn't been working on over the course of 6 years, and starting to focus on what was really truly my niche. All of a sudden I just had this catalog of songs, and we went in and we were like, well, let's just record 3 songs. And I had a catalog of like 15 songs or something like that. And then it was like, well, I can't choose which one I want to do. I've got vocals to this one. I've got vocals to this one. Whereas back in the day when we would write a song, it would take us forever to write a song, because we just, I was young. I just didn't know what I was doing really. And,
Sure.
I went from being a hardcore vocalist to being a guitarist. Then all of a sudden it was like, write songs. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And, so getting into the swing of it, and really learning a lot in the 10-year hiatus, all of a sudden it was like, well, why only do 3 songs? Let's do 5. And then all of a sudden it was like, why only do 5 songs? Let's do a full album. And it was crazy because We just got into the studio, and it's been the first time that we would work on a song and we would complete the song, and James would say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not really feeling this one. I don't have anything to it." And instead of forcing it, uh, it was like, "All right, well, just put it back in the catalog. Maybe we'll come to it another day. What else, do you hear anything else on this that you feel like you could do?" So this whole record was kind of an amalgamation of uh, kind of finally, I say this kind of sarcastically, but finally getting out of my own way and, just sucking up my pride and, like, as a guitarist and writing the music, it's like, well, I thought this guitar part was really sweet. Why don't you like this? And then kind of taking it personally and then making everybody else feel like they had to do something with it because like I wrote the guitar part, you play to it. Whereas this one was kind of like, I want this to be 100% James. And so it was like every song that we picked for this record was James. James had to have something vocally, and first and foremost, had to feel a hook for the chorus and feel strongly about it in order for us to continue working on it. So for me, this record was my most proud moment because of the fact that it was more of a collective and collaborative album where everybody had their own say and creative outtake on everything that went into it rather than just going, I wrote the song, it has to be a song because it takes me forever to write a song. And I really feel like that's why this record turned out the way that it did, was because everybody got to put their egos aside and they got to put their best foot forward. And I think that's why the record turned out so special, in my opinion.
No, that's awesome, man. And that's super just vulnerable, transparent, and insightful. Like, awesome to hear that. Like, I get it. You said a minute ago, I hear you when you say it's cliche to say that the music just poured out of me, but I mean, man, it does do that.
It,
Of all
yeah,
things, I'm watching this. I mean, this is tangential, so I'm just gonna go with it. But I've been watching this recent. I just have to say, growing up as a kid, I was super influenced by Billy Joel as a really young kid as a piano player, just because he's a
incredible.
ridiculous piano player and
Yeah.
songwriter, right? And so
Yep.
I'm watching this thing that they recently put out on whatever channel, and it's like this 2-part kind of massive biography on him and interviews with him and all this. And he was talking about when he lived in Hollywood and he was going back to New York because he's just like, why am I out in California? This isn't my place. These aren't my people. Like, I don't fit in here. And on the bus ride home, the song New York State of Mind, he just wrote it on the way home. And he's like, he got into his house and he saw his wife and he's like, where's the piano? And he just ran upstairs and he said, yeah, I basically wrote the song in about an hour. And I'm like, and it's one of like the most massive, like amazing cultural phenomena songs that reflects, how people feel about New York and that feeling. And you know what I mean? I don't know. There's so much that's dope about that, but it's at the same time, right, man, these things just pour out of people. And I also think it's really cool just to hear how you're putting yourself aside. I mean, I have some experience with that. I was writing a record that I started, I don't know, like in 2008 or something. And was never really able to finish it because I kept moving around, couldn't find players and whatever. Then finally COVID happened and I had this band and I'm like, hey man, let's work on this. But then we had to do it all remotely and I had to really let go of what my actual vision was for the song. And I had to let it grow and evolve the way that it was going to grow and evolve with the input and the contributions of my bandmates. Like, it just had to be that way.
Mhm.
And it's super, that's a super challenging and cathartic and hard experience sometimes, but also, some things came out of that I just never could imagine that would have. Like, some things were so much better than ever. So anyway, just to hear how proud you are of this record and the process that you went through to get there, it's just really inspiring to hear, and I'm excited to listen to the rest of it.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, it's crazy, because I before I started playing in the band, right before Johnny Rook, that I heard some of their music on. Um, I don't whether it was released on YouTube or whatever the platform was when they were going. And the producer of the band, I asked him, I was like, why didn't you? Yeah, at the time, I wasn't really doing anything musically, seriously or anything like that. And I said, why didn't you tell me that these guys were doing auditions? I would have auditioned. And he made the comment to me, well, because that band wasn't ready for a Zac Boyd. And, I kinda took it pretty personally. I didn't really get pissed off about it, but I know that, there's been comments, and even my current band members will tell you too that, I'm probably not the easiest, individual to work with when it comes to,
Sure.
business stuff, but a good part of that is because, really the passion takes over when it comes to the band. And from
For
the
sure.
inception of the band, I've kind of had to take over all of the business aspects of it. And there's a
Yeah.
certain side of being a businessman outside of being a musician that you really kind of have to wear things pretty close to your chest, and your emotions run high sometimes, and you really kind of have to be a hard ass. And sometimes that boils over into your expectations of what you have for band members. And so when he told me that this band wasn't ready for Zach Boyd, and and then I started playing in this other band, and some of those band members told me that it was occasionally difficult to work with me, just because of those expectations, and like being professional. And I'm also the kind of guy where it's like, I want to always remember where I came from. And so I never want to get off stage and feel like I'm not approachable. And I expect that out of the rest of the band members too, just because, we're, none of us are better than anybody else. We're here doing something we love, and the people are here to support us. So, I always had that expectation. But when Johnny Rook got back together, it was funny because I quit that last band, and we went out on this month and a half long tour with a national band. And when I quit the band, I really felt like, well, what did I do? I felt probably the lowest I've ever felt as a musician, as a creative individual, whatever you want to have it. And
Sure.
it was kind of something that my wife talked to me about everything. And what do you define as success type deal.
Yeah.
And the things that I got to do, I there's not a lot of musicians that I know on a local level, that have gotten to do the things that I got to do. And I realized, the success is defined completely differently by a lot of people. And for me personally, I've been really proud of the things that I've been able to do. So getting back together with Johnny Rook, it took a long, hard look at myself and the way that I kind of approached things, and the band and the business. And the last thing that I wanted was for any of this shit, the resurgence of the band, to be stressful in any which stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
And so we got together, and when we talked, I said, I want everybody to really give me an idea of how you want this to be different. And the communication was, you got to chill out a little bit, man. Like, you can't be so aggressive about it. When you feel like something is how it needs to be, you don't be so close-minded about it. Like let's have a conversation, and let's have an actual democracy to where we talk about it. And if majority rules, you got to be cool with it. And it was it was crazy, man, because you talk about how you kind of got to get step out of your own shell a little bit, and grow up a little bit, and realize, like, hey, man, there's other members of this band that really want this to succeed too. It's just they have a different outlook on it, and might handle business side of things differently. But communication is key. And yeah, it's ever since that point, I learned a lot from that last band, and even from songwriting. And it kind of gotten that mentality now. Like, if it makes the song better, and it feels easy to me, it's not about me playing Olympics on the guitar. It's what makes the song better. So it was a long come about, but I feel like I have eventually got there.
Yeah, man. No, that's super awesome, and it's so much what you said there. I just identify with on so many levels. Just yep, how I was back in the day and driving the band forward, and I don't care how much PTO you have. We're going on tour for a month. Let's go. You know, it's just like
Exactly. Yep.
um
You
like
want this to succeed or not?
yeah, right. Like
Yeah.
quit, then come on, let's go.
Yep.
You know, and it was
Yep.
I was a challenging dude, and I was driven, and I knew that, but it was also, you know, it took me a long time to kind of come around on a lot of those things, and I know the feeling about, you know, I have a lot of gratitude for the stuff I've been able to do musically as well, and I hear that in you. Just the whole, yeah, man. It's like there's a lot of things that I've had the fortune to be able to experience as a musician that I know a lot of my friends just haven't, and I don't, you know, I hope they do. I hope they get that, have those chances. But it's like, you know, having that too is just that sort of humility about the whole thing and having that willingness to be able to share it all with your bandmates. I mean, it's super fun to hear. I really appreciate you sharing all that.
Absolutely.
What, I want to find out, where should all the people listening to all the awesome things about Johnny Rook, so they can go find your music and catch up and stay up with you guys. Where's the best place for them to keep up with you? Do you have a primary website that directs everybody, or is it just Instagram, or what's the spot?
Well, we are we're a bunch of Asian dudes that just absolutely hate social media. You know,
I
it's funny
resemble
because
that.
oh my god, dude, it's so bad. You know, and it sucks because I miss the MySpace days, and
Oh,
that's the
funny.
nostalgia side of me. You
Sure.
know, you give
Yeah.
me your top 8 any day over this, you know, Facebook or Instagram BS. But with
Yep.
that being said, it's inevitable. We talked about it being a digital age, and you know, we don't have a website. It's kind of one of those deals that it's just yet another piece of the puzzle that we would have to maintain, and we're all too damn lazy to do it.
Okay.
But if Facebook and Instagram, both of our usernames, Facebook is just facebook.com/, Johnny Rook Music. And on Instagram, you can find us at Johnny Rook Music. So those are the two primary points that you can connect with us. And unlike a lot of other bands, we are the actual a-holes that are answering all of the messages sent to us. So
Great.
if you're going to reach out and get in touch with us, but you did mention Bandcamp. All of the stuff is available there. Otherwise, physical media is on the elasticstage.com/Johnny Rook.
Yep.
Otherwise, yeah, man, it's everything's up on streaming platforms, so it can be found on Apple, YouTube Music, Pandora, Spotify, whatever tickles your fancy as a DSP these days.
Well, that's awesome, man. Zach, it's been great talking with you about the song and the record, and just hearing about the history of the band and kind of the different sort of phases that you've gone through and where you're at today. And it just seems like a really cool road ahead. And so I'm super stoked to see where you all go. Thank you again for coming on and talking to me about the song and the record and the band. And I'd love to stay in touch and catch up with you next time you guys have another single, another record, whatever. Hit me up and let's do this again.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach.
Three Crows Club presents B-Side Breakdown. People say and people talk, but they never walk the walk. What the fuck?
All right, and that wraps up another episode of the B-Side Breakdown. I want to thank Zac Boyd from the band Johnny Rook for coming along to talk about the song Missing You for Days. In the background, you're hearing a song called WTF by Adios Fatso. If you like what you're hearing, please go back and listen to the previous episode because that's what it was all about. Up next, I have the Snorts and talking with Aaron Stoker about the song Butterflies. I'll give you a taste of that at the end of this episode, so please hang out for that. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I want to thank Adam Coulong and Carrie Bozel for helping me put together the jingle you hear at the beginning and the end of this episode. If you want to help keep this labor of love alive, please go over to patreon.com/B-Side Breakdown and become a supporter. It helps us to keep the lights on and these episodes keep coming out. So thank you so much for all of your support along the way. And again, be safe out there and we'll catch up on the next one. Thanks.